Hillary want to control and restrict and limit gun manufacturers, gun owners, and the responsible use of guns and ammunition to the rest of us, the good guys, instead of holding the bad guys accountable for their actions. And Mr. President, if I may, I'd like to use Chicago, your hometown, a city that has some of the strictest gun laws in the nation, a city that for decades and still is under Democratic control, a city that has an outrageous and even embarrassing murder rate as my first example. Why can't we round up these thugs, these drug dealers and gang members, and hold them accountable for their actions, or allow the good people in Chicago access to firearms to protect themselves?
Good. All right. Well, let me, it's a multi-part question, so let me just say a couple.
Presidential hopeful Hillary Clinton is waging an all-out war on guns and gun owners. She has called the NRA her #1 enemy, compared the organization to communists and Iranians, and promises to make gun control a central part of her bid for the White House, including using Australian-style gun control as the model to adopt here in the U.S.
The Australian government, as part of trying to clamp down on the availability of automatic weapons, offered a good price for buying hundreds of thousands of guns. They believed, and I think the evidence supports them, that by offering to buy back those guns, they were able to, curtail the supply and to set a different standard for gun purchases in the future. So I think that's worth considering.
I was a bit horrified by that. I don't think Australia is a model for the United States on gun control at all.
Senator David Leyonhjelm, the strongest voice for gun owners in Australia's parliament, and a target shooter himself, told me Australia's mandatory confiscation has not kept guns out of the hands of criminals, and it won't work in America either.
It made no difference to firearms violence, to gun violence, violence overall. In fact, we had a blip up in general violence after the gun bans. A massive so-called buyback. It was a confiscation with compensation program. Semi-automatic rifles and shotguns and pump-action shotguns were essentially prohibited. It also removed the right to own a gun in any state in Australia for self-defence. We're a nation of victims. You cannot own a gun for self-defence. Doesn't matter what the circumstances, doesn't matter how big the threat, you cannot defend yourself. The criminals still have plenty of guns. There's no shortage of guns. There's a very vigorous black market for guns. So it's really not made the slightest bit of difference. If you want a gun, you can get one. Look at what Australia did. It's a defenceless country these days. I'm absolutely in awe of the success of the NRA at holding back the tide, and it never gives an inch. We love the NRA here in Australia amongst us gunners, and in fact we rely on you guys to also help us hold the line in Australia.
These minorities and that minority, what I want to know is, when are you all going to start standing up for the majority? And here's who the majority is. I'm the majority. I'm a law-abiding citizen who's never shot anybody, never committed a serious crime, never committed a felony. I've never done anything like that. But it seems like every time we have one of these shootings, nobody wants to put the blame where it goes, which is at the shooter's feet. You want to put it at my feet. You want to turn around and restrict my right, constitutional right that's spelled out in black and white. You want to restrict my right to buy a firearm and protect myself from some of the very people you're talking about in here tonight. It's ridiculous. I don't think Rod Serling could come up with a better script. It does not make any sense. The law-abiding citizens of this community and many communities around this country, we're the first ones taxed and the last ones considered and the first ones punished when things like this happens, because our rights are the ones that are being taken away. That's the reason why I came down here today. Gun show or no gun show, NRA or no NRA. I'm here to stand up for the law-abiding citizens of this community, because I'm going to tell you that what's going to happen. You can take the guns away from us all you want to. You all write a law, I follow the law, I'll bring my guns down here, I'll turn them in. But here's what's going to happen. The Crips and the Bloods on the other side of town, they're not going to turn their guns in. They're going to hold on to them. And what's going to happen when you have to send the police down there to go take them? The police can barely enforce the law as it is. As what I see, we demonize the police, criminalize and vilify the police, and we make the criminals into victims. And we're talking about restricting guns? How are you going to do that? How are you going to do that when the police department's already hamstrung? You're not going to be able to go down here and take these guns from these criminals. So the criminals are going to hold on to their guns.
Okay, so 5 out of 5 for banning an assault weapon. Do you know what an assault weapon is?
Yeah, it's assault weapon. It's like a, I kind of do, but kind of don't.
Okay.
Like.
It's just well.
What is an assault weapon?
Can any of you tell me what an assault weapon is?
I guess. But assault weapons, like, does that sound safe to you?
Do you guys know what an assault weapon is?
Yeah, honestly, if you're asking me, any gun that isn't a pistol should be banned.
The same amount of people die by assault weapons as do car crashes in a given year.
As what?
Do car crashes. It's a similar number.
Okay. It's not actually, but.
Or isn't it similar?
No, it's not. So assault weapons count for about 3% of gun deaths, and car crashes are about the leading cause.
Okay, I thought that was. But a lot of people die by gun deaths.
Do you guys know what an assault weapon is, though?
I mean, a phrase that comes to mind is like military-style weapon.
What an assault weapon is? Yeah, it's like, it's an arm that, like a gun, for instance, that you can buy at a shop pretty easily, that is, like, can cause more deaths than, like, one, I guess.
I consider any. I'm not even against just assault weapons. I'm pretty much against most guns.
I think that the Second Amendment at this time is outdated.
This is the heart of 1776. It wasn't one of the reasons that the war against King George began. It was the central, main, final reason at Lexington and Concord. And it wasn't one of the reasons there was a rebellion against the dictator Santa Anna, later thrown out in Mexico proper. It was the main, central reason they met at Washington on the Brazos, where my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather Ayers helped kick the whole thing off to say, we're not turning our guns in, and we're not running, and we're not backing down. If you want them, come and take them.